everybody, this is Diana from So Very Crafty, and today we are here to make this terrific dog walking bag. I love this bag because it has a place for a leash, for your dog treats, for your toys, whatever you need, and a special little zipper pocket in the front with a hole for your little poop bags. All you have to do is put your plastic bags in the front and they pull right out the hole. It's just spectacular. I love this little bag. And quite frankly, if you want to use this as a crossbody bag, don't put the hole in it and it works perfect just the way it is. So if you like this project, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. But I think you'll love this project, so let's get started. Okay, so let's get started on our dog walking bag today. So what do we need? We need just some fabrics and a few other essentials, and we can get going on this bag. So the first thing we're going to need is some fabric, and I have chosen this very cute dachshund fabric that I got from Fabric Frenzy in Wimberley, Texas, and I'll put the link on the comments page if you want to get some of this terrific little doggy fabric. And some lining fabric. I chose just a pink dot to go with my pink dotted dachshunds. A 9-inch zipper. You'll notice I have an extra long zipper here because I always use extra long zippers because I know I can shorten them. And it's cheaper that way. I can just buy them in bulk and they work out perfect for me. You are going to need a curtain grommet that looks like this, and it actually just snaps together, and I'll show you how that works. And it comes with a little template, looks like that, a little plastic template. You're going to need a magnetic snap, although this is optional, so you don't have to have this, but I like these magnetic snaps. They are a nice little feature to keep your bag closed. You will also need a couple of pieces of Peltex or some other kind of interfacing to back up your magnetic snaps. And I've used some Pelon SF101 interfacing to give my bag a little bit of structure. You could use some Pelon 808 if you wanted a little bit more structure, but I chose the SF101 for my project today. So in order to put this bag together, you are going to need your 9-inch zipper or longer because you can shorten it, which is what we're going to do. All these little trinkets, and you need to measure out your fabrics. You are going to need 3 pieces of outer fabric of your choice that measure 8 inches across by 10 inches long. So 8 by 10 inch of your main fabric, 8 by 10 inches of your lining fabric, and you are going to have a 3-inch wide by the width of your fabric, which is probably 42 or 44 inches, minus the selvage, for your strap. And then you're going to have 8 by 10 inch pieces of your SF101, and that's all you're going to need for fabric wise. And this bag comes together in a snap, very easy peasy with just these little pieces of fabric. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to fuse our fleece to, or fuse our interfacing to our outer fabric, following the manufacturer's instructions. And you will notice if you're using SF101, there is a bumpy side and a smooth side. The bumpy side actually has glue particles on it. And you're going to place that bumpy side on the wrong side of your fabric. And you're going to hit it with a hot iron, and that glue is going to melt. And it's going to then fuse into your outer fabric, so you can treat these as one and it becomes a little bit stronger and a little bit more structure to your fabric. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to head over to the iron here real quick, and I'm going to fuse this interfacing, and we're going to move on to our next step. Okay, we are back and we have fused our interfacing to our fabric pieces. Now we are going to take one of our fabric pieces and we are going to measure down 3.5 inches from the top short end. So 3.5 inches from the top short end, and we are going to cut right across this 3.5 inch mark. And I apologize for the crookedness of this, but I'm doing this on camera, so it's not necessarily going to be straight. But 3.5 inches is all we need. We are going to do the exact same thing with one of our lining pieces, so that we have 3.5 inches from the top, because we want to make sure that our lining piece and our outer piece are together. So we have a top lining piece and an outer piece, and a bottom lining piece and a bottom outer piece. And now we are going to attach our zipper. And this is not as difficult as you might think it is, especially because we have this extra long zipper. Makes things a lot easier. I am going to pull this zipper pull so that it's actually in the middle of where I want it to be, because I'm going to snip this zipper so that it's to length to where we want it to be. The first thing we're going to do is place our lining piece right sides up on our work surface. We are going to place our zipper also right sides up on our lining piece. We are then going to place our outer piece wrong sides down. Now we have to keep in mind that I'm using a directional fabric here. In other words, all of my dachshunds are going in the same direction. So we need to be careful that our dachshunds do not end up upside down when we are finished with our zipper. So I'm just going to take a peek here and see that when we finish this, my dachshunds are going to be right sides up, so we know that this is the correct way. So we are going to take some clips and we are going to clip this zipper, making sure that the lining piece, the zipper, and the outer piece are lined up. Just like that. And we are going to head over to the sewing machine and we are going to sew using a zipper foot right along this edge. So let's head over to the sewing machine and do that. Okay, so here we are at the sewing machine and we are just going to stitch a line right down here. We see that everything is lined up the way that we want it. And we're just going to hold this. Now, if you're just a beginner sewist, you might want to add some pins to this and make sure you pull those pins out one at a time. But but I'm just going to hold this in place because this is just a little short seam here. And we are going to use our, as you can see, our zipper foot, and we are just going to stitch right along the edge here of this zipper. Now you can see as we come along, here is the bump for our zipper pull. I'm going to put my needle down, I'm going to reach under, and I'm going to pull that zipper out of the way so that we don't have a little zigzag in our zipper as we're sewing along. And we're just going to continue to sew right along here, making sure that everything is nice and neat and lined up. And there we go. We have a nice straight zipper. When we open it up, our dachshunds are headed the right direction and our lining is perfect. Now we are going to head over and add the other side of the zipper. Okay, here we are. Here's our top part of our zipper. As you can see, we have the lining on one side and we have the top part with our dachshunds going the correct way. And now we're going to add the other side of the zipper. And we do that exactly the same way that we did the first part. We lay our lining right sides up. We have our zipper right sides up, making sure that all of these edges are matching because we don't want our zipper to be wonky. Make sure these edges are even. And then we're going to take our dachshunds and we're going to put them wrong sides down. But once again, we want to take a peek and make sure that when we turn this over, that our dachshunds are going to be right sides up when we're done. And let's take some clips and let's clip all of these together and head back over to the sewing machine. So there's that. And again, we want to make sure that these sides are also even, which they are, as you can see. We're going to head back over to the sewing machine. Here we are back at the sewing machine, and we are going to stitch the other side of our zipper, making sure that everything is lined up. Make sure that our zipper is sandwiched the way that it should be, as it is. You can see that it's right there. Here's our outer fabric. We're going to stitch along. Here's our bump. We want to get that out of the way so we have a nice straight stitch on our zipper. And as you can see, our zipper is done. But what we're going to do now is we are going to press this zipper And then we're going to do a little top stitch along here to make sure that our lining does not get caught in the zipper when we're opening and closing it. Okay, so I have pressed my lining and my top fabric. And one thing that you'll notice is I have purple in my upper thread, and I actually have pink in my bobbin thread so that I don't have contrasting thread in my lining. And I'm just going to top stitch right along here. On both sides of my zipper. That way, when I open and close my zipper, it won't catch in the lining. And there we have it. Our zipper is now installed exactly the way we want it. No problems. We're going to clip off these excess threads and head back over to our work table to work on the rest of our project. Okay, we are back and we have our zipper sewn and top stitched and ready for our next step. So what is our next step? Well, we need to actually cut a hole in this bag for our grommet. And as you can see, we've got two sides of the grommet and we have our grommet template. And what we're going to do is we are going to fold this bag in half, and so that way we can figure out where our center point is. And we're just going to draw a line. And this is a Friction heat erasable pen, so I know that that mark is going to go away the minute I hit it with an iron. And so I love these pens. They are fantastic. And I'll put a link in the comments section, so if you want to buy some of these, you can. But I love them for sewing. And the other thing we're going to do is we are going to find the center point of this bag, the bottom of the bag, put another line, and that's where we are going to place the crosshairs, I don't know if you can see that, of our template. It's going to go right there. We are going to draw in these little grooves around there, and we are going to take our scissors and we are going to cut out the hole. I know it's painful sometimes to cut out a hole in our beautiful fabric, but in this instance it is necessary. So out comes this hole, but you will see that it will, all these raw edges will be covered up with no problem. So we have our grommet. We're going to stick this in here, and as you can see, when we put the fabric in there, it fits perfectly around that male part of our grommet. We're going to take the female part of our grommet and put it right on top, put a little pressure on it, and it is going to snap into place. Just, whoops, like that. And as you can see, we have a grommet, a nice hole, and that's where our little poop bags are going to come out when we finish our bag. So now we need to move on to our next step. And our next step is we are going to add another piece of our main fabric to the wrong side of our zipper front. Just like that, so our little doggies are peeping through the hole. And we're going to take a third piece of our main fabric and we are going to place it right sides together. Just like that. And we're going to take some clips, or if you don't have Wonder clips, you can just pin this. There's no reason why pins won't work for you. I like Wonder clips because they don't stab me in the finger and they're easy to use. So we're just going to clip around this. And we are going to go over to the sewing machine and we are going to sew along the sides, the bottom, and up the other side, back stitching at the tops for security, pivoting at the bottom for a nice crisp corner, and then we are going to come back and clip off these excess zippers and clip off our corners. And remember to make sure that your zipper pull is in the middle of the bag, because otherwise you won't be able to clip it off and that will be problematic for you. So let's head over to the sewing machine and sew these around, and we'll come over and finish up our next step. Okay, so we are going to clip off our corners on both sides, and now we are going to clip off this excess zipper that we don't need. So we're just going to clip that off, clip that off. Remember, our zipper pull is on the inside, and we are going to turn this bag right sides out. And there you have your basic dog walking bag. The zipper is there. You have the inside of your pocket where your little poopy bags are going to go, and they're going to stick right through this hole. But we're not quite finished because we have no lining. We can't go out looking like that, and we have no strap. So let's move on to our next step and finish up this bag. So we have our two extra lining pieces here, and we need to create the lining for this bag. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to first add our two magnetic snaps. And the way that that is done is very, very simple. Each one of these sides of the magnetic snap has a grommet that looks like this. It has a hole and two slots. So what you're going to do is you're going to measure 1.5 inches down from the top, and in the center of this, and you're going to place the hole that's in the middle on that mark. So let's do that, and I will show you what we're going to do. So we're going to find the center. The easiest way to do that is just to fold this piece in half and crease it down the middle. That's the center. Take your ruler, measure 1.5 inches, and make a dot. And do the same thing on the other side. Fold in half. Measure 1.5 inches. Make a dot. Now you're going to take this grommet and you're going to place the dot right there. And you're going to take your pen and you're going to mark those 2 slots on either side. Mark the 2 slots on either side of the dot. And you're going to take a small pair of scissors or a seam ripper and you're just going to cut those slots. Again, I know it's painful to cut the slots on these things, but it's got to be done. So we're just going to snip those slots. Okay, there we go. Now we are going to get our 2 pieces of Peltex or some other interfacing or some other kind of backing material so that we can give some support to these magnetic snaps. I'm going to take these pieces of Peltex and I'm going to put them in the back. And I'm going to take my seam ripper, now that I've cut the holes, and I'm just going to cut some holes in the Peltex. Now, you'll see that these magnetic snaps have prongs. I am going to put those prongs through the holes that we just made in the Peltex and in the fabric. You'll see it goes right through. Perfect. Take the grommet, put it on there, and push those prongs. You can either push them inwards or outwards. It doesn't really matter. I like inwards. And there's 1/2 of your magnetic snap. And you're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. We're going to put this piece of Peltex on there, take our seam ripper, make some slots. You know, make sure you don't cut too much fabric because otherwise it will rip. Put the other half of this magnetic snap in those slots, just like that. Put on the grommet and press. And now you have 2 magnetic snaps, 1/2 for each side. The next thing you're going to do is you are going to sew this lining the same way that you sewed the outer bag. You're going to sew along the side, both sides, but you're only going to sew a little ways along the bottom because you need to keep an opening in this lining to turn it right sides out. So we are going to head over to the sewing machine and just sew a little bit on the bottom and all the way up and down, up and the sides, back stitching at the top for security. So let's head over to the sewing machine and we'll be right back. Now let's just clip off our corners here without clipping through the stitching. And we are going to keep this bag wrong sides out, but we are going to place our outer bag inside this bag so that they are right sides together, just like that. And we're going to match up these seams because we don't want to have wonky seams on this. And we're just going to clip around the top. Make sure that these raw edges match. Make sure these seams match. And we are just going to set this aside for a couple of minutes. Now we are going to take our long piece of fabric and we are going to turn this into a strap. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to head over to the iron and to the sewing machine, and we are going to press these long edges so that they meet in the center. And then we are going to fold them in half so that the raw edges are enclosed inside. And then we are going to top stitch on either side of this strap. So we have one nice long strap that is going to be a long strap for this crossbody dog walking bag. So I'm going to head over to the iron and I'm going to sew this, or I'm going to press this strap so that we can top stitch it over at the sewing machine. And I'll be right back. Okay, so we have finished our strap, and now all we need to do is add it to our bag. Now remember, we made sure that our side seams were properly together. So I am going to take one end of our strap and I'm going to place it on the side seam. In between the lining and the outer bag. I'm going to stuff this inside the bag. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's make sure that we put the other side also in between the lining and the outer bag at the side seam. Clip, because we want to make sure that this isn't twisted, and it's not. Stuff it inside the bag. Reclip the top. Now we're going to head back to the sewing machine and we are going to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around the top. We should use our, take off our table, because I have a table on mine, and we can just whip around the top. And once that's done, we're going to turn this bag right sides out and top stitch around the top for a finished look, and we'll be back to show you the final product. Okay, now we are back, and as you can see, I've taken my table off of my sewing machine because it's going to make this process so much easier to be able to attach my lining bag to my outer bag. I am going to start at the side seam, keeping in mind that I have my strap and my lining and my outer bag all together. So I'm going to go forward, go back, and go forward again because I want this to be nice and strong. Make sure that these layers are all together. Take these clips off as we go. When we get to the other side seam, we are going to go back and forth again, add a little extra strength, and continue on our way. And now we're back. Okay, now this is where the opening in our bag becomes important. We are going to turn this bag by pulling the outer bag through the lining. I hope you can see this because I'm now using my phone instead of my camera. Okay, now the lining is pushed inside of the outer bag because I have pulled it out, and we are going to then, you can see our straps are attached as they should be. We are going to top stitch this all the way around the top to secure the lining and the straps just as they should be. So let's again start on the side seam. Making sure that our seam is at the top. I'm going to put my needle down so that I can manipulate this a little bit better. And we are just going to top stitch this all the way around. Now let's head over to our work table.